The mist lay thick over the cliffs of planet Vera, turning the jagged rocks into shadowed shapes that seemed almost alive in the pale moonlight. The wind was still, but the ocean beneath roared as if it carried secrets from centuries past. Kale, a young human engineer, stood at the edge of the cliff, his eyes scanning the horizon. His scanner had picked up something strange earlier that day, signals that didn't match any natural phenomenon. Neither the usual energy pulses from the colony, nor the faint echoes of alien satellites. They were human in origin, yet far older than any craft or station in known records. Locals whispered stories about the forgotten ship. According to them, it appeared at night, moored somewhere in the misty waters, and its bell would ring even though no wind touched the ropes. Most dismissed it as superstition, a tale to frighten children. But Kale had always been drawn to mysteries, especially those tied to human history. Where others saw ghost stories, he saw puzzles waiting to be solved. He packed his climbing gear and a small shuttle pod, careful to take only what he would need for a solo expedition. The colony had rules about approaching unknown sites, especially abandoned human technology, but Kale had never been one to follow rules blindly. Curiosity, he thought, was the engine of discovery. The climb down to the shore was treacherous. Wet rocks glistened like black glass, and every misstep could end in a fall into the cold, unforgiving sea. But Kale moved with precision, his hands and feet finding purchase where instinct guided them. Finally, he reached the water's edge, where the fog pressed close, and the night was nearly silent. Then, as if drawn from the fog itself, the ship appeared. It was enormous, a human vessel long thought lost. During the early centuries of interstellar exploration, its hull was dark, covered in algae and barnacles, yet it radiated a strange energy that Kale could feel through his gloves. The bell hung at the bow, swaying slightly though the air was still. And then it rang a deep, resonant tone that echoed over the water and cliffs. Cutting through the silence, Kale's heart raced. This was no ordinary ship. It had been designed for exploration, for mapping hyperspace routes critical to human expansion. And yet here it was, abandoned for centuries, untouched by wind, untouched by time, or so it seemed. He approached cautiously, activating the magnetic boots he always carried for shipboarding. The fog wrapped around him, and the bell rang again, almost like it was calling his name. Kale felt a strange connection, an almost instinctual recognition. Humans had always been explorers, and this ship, in some way, seemed to know that he was one of them. Stepping aboard was like entering another world. The deck creaked under his weight, though it had clearly endured centuries. Rust lined the edges of the railings, yet the structure remained intact. He scanned the ship with his handheld device, which beeped and hummed in ways that suggested energy fields were active within the vessel. How could that be? The ship should have been dead, frozen in time. Kale made his way to the entrance of the main cabin. The doors, corroded and heavy, opened smoothly under his careful manipulation. Inside, the ship was dark, the lights flickering faintly. Dust hung in the air like fine fog, disturbed only by his movements. Holographic panels, long, dormant, glimmered when he approached, responding to his presence. A soft, mechanical voice whispered through the cabin, though broken and fragmented. Human detected, mission critical. The ship's AI, ancient and fragmented, seemed to awaken. It spoke in broken phrases, almost as if it were remembering how to communicate after centuries of silence. Kale felt a thrill. Humans had created machines that could think and adapt, but no one had seen a machine left alone for centuries, surviving in isolation, awaiting a human. It was as if the ship had been waiting for him all this time. He explored further, finding sealed compartments and locked data cores. His fingers moved deftly over the ancient control panels, bypassing security systems that were designed to keep intruders out. Kale understood the logic of these old systems, more from intuition than from manuals. This was a uniquely human skill, the ability to improvise, to see patterns others could not, to adapt in real time. In one compartment, he found logs of the ship's last mission. Holographic recordings of humans he had never met flickered to life, their voices explaining their task. Mapping hyperspace lanes, establishing routes for human expansion, and cataloging alien civilizations. There were records of conflict too, warnings about the Zaltor fleet, an alien civilization hostile to human explorers. Kyle felt a chill. The ship had been lost not because of negligence, but because of calculated sabotage. The deeper he went, the more the ship seemed alive. Lights pulsed in response to his heartbeat. Doors opened before he touched them. And the bell at the bow rang occasionally. In no pattern he could decipher. Yet it felt deliberate, like the ship was trying to communicate, teaching him a rhythm only humans could feel. Suddenly, a strange vibration ran through the deck. Kyle froze. He scanned the surroundings, but there was no external movement. No engines starting. Nothing. Yet the ship shifted slightly, as if adjusting to his presence. The bell rang again, longer this time, and Kyle realized it was not random. Each chime corresponded to a step he took, a breath, a heartbeat. The ship had synchronized itself with him. He moved to the bridge, where the main controls were located. Ancient panels displayed data that was almost unreadable, but still functional. Kyle connected his scanner and began analyzing the systems. Power cores were barely stable, yet the ship could still move. The AI whispered again, fragmented but coherent. Mission. Must continue. Human. Guide. Kyle understood then what he had to do. This ship was a relic, yes, but it was also a tool of humanity, waiting to serve its purpose. The Zaltor, the hostile aliens, might still be out there. If the ship could be revived, it could protect human expansion, and perhaps even teach humans something about their own ingenuity. Hours passed as Kyle worked. He repaired circuits, stabilized energy flows, and coaxed the AI back into functionality. It was slow, painstaking work, but Kyle felt a connection to the humans who had designed this ship centuries ago. They had taken risks for the sake of exploration and knowledge. He was following in their footsteps, a link in a chain of human persistence that spanned generations. As dawn approached on the distant horizon, the fog began to lift. The ship, still moored in the water, seemed almost majestic in the soft light. Its hull glimmered faintly, the algae and barnacles reflecting the morning sun. Kyle stood on the deck, breathing in the cold air, and realized that the bell had stopped ringing. The ship was calm now, resting, but alive. He knew that his journey had only begun. This night had revealed a truth about humanity. Even when forgotten, even when lost to time, human ingenuity and courage could awaken the most dormant of machines. And in this awakening, there was hope. The ship was not just a relic. It was a testament to what humans could accomplish when they combined curiosity, creativity, and determination. Kyle looked back at the mist-covered cliffs, then out to the endless ocean. He was alone, yet not lonely. He carried with him the legacy of humans who had dared to explore, to reach into the unknown, and to leave behind a beacon for those who would come after. And as he prepared to set the ship on its first course, he felt the quiet thrill of discovery. The undeniable pulse of human spirit. The forgotten ship had waited for centuries, and now it had found its guide. The night had ended, but its mysteries had only just begun. And somewhere, deep in the circuits and core of the ship, the AI whispered one final phrase, clear and certain: human, leader, mission continues. Kyle worked tirelessly through the morning, exploring the inner corridors of the forgotten ship. Every step revealed something new: a control panel that still glimmered with soft light, a storage room filled with tools long thought lost, and compartments containing supplies meant for crews who had disappeared centuries ago. Dust hung thick in the air, yet it seemed to move aside as he walked, almost as if the ship itself recognized him and allowed him passage. He made his way to the main laboratory, a room that had once been the heart of human exploration technology. The consoles flickered weakly, but Kale managed to activate several displays. Holographic maps appeared, showing star systems and hyperspace lanes that had never been charted before. Some were familiar, others were completely unknown. Kale ran his fingers over the controls, feeling a strange connection with the minds that had designed this vessel. These humans had dreamed of the stars, of exploring worlds far beyond their reach. And Kale felt that same dream thrumming in his own veins. The AI, though still fragmented, began communicating more clearly. Its voice was mechanical, yet there was an unmistakable intelligence behind it. Human. Analysis. Required. Anomalies detected. Kale leaned closer to the console. Anomalies? Explain. Ship. Movement. Unplanned. Unknown energy. External. Source. Unknown. The AI replied. Its words were slow, deliberate, as though each syllable required effort. Kale frowned. The ship should have been dead, its systems frozen for centuries. Yet something, somewhere, was moving it or influencing it from afar. Kale stepped onto the observation deck, looking out over the misty ocean. The ship floated silently, the water reflecting the soft glow of its hull. No wind stirred. No current seemed to move it. Yet it was not entirely still. There was a subtle shift, a faint vibration that traveled through the deck. The bell at the bow, though silent for hours, now rang softly once, twice, in a pattern too deliberate to be random. Kale felt a shiver of anticipation. Something was watching, or waiting, and it knew he was here. Determined to uncover the ship's secrets, Kale moved to the engineering section. Ancient machinery creaked under his hands, but his expertise allowed him to coax life back into circuits and engines long dormant. The ship responded in kind, humming softly, lights pulsing like a heartbeat. For hours, he worked, reconnecting systems, calibrating sensors, and slowly bringing the ship back online. As the day passed, he discovered logs detailing the ship's last mission. Its crew had been tasked with exploring a region of space where human presence was limited, mapping hyperspace routes, crucial for future expansion. But they had encountered resistance not from the natural dangers of space, but from the Xal-Tor, an alien civilization that had long opposed human colonization. Kale studied the holograms of the crew. They were young, human, driven by curiosity and courage. Their mission had been sabotaged, the ship damaged, and the crew lost. Yet here it was, waiting, preserved in mist and memory, as if the universe itself had held it safe for the humans who might one day return. Hours turned into evening, and the fog crept back over the cliffs and ocean. The ship's bell rang again, low and resonant, echoing across the water. Kale felt a strange emotion connection, responsibility, and awe, all at once. The ship was not just metal and circuits, it was human ingenuity preserved, waiting for a human to guide it once more. He decided to investigate the lower decks, where the power cores and propulsion systems were stored. The corridors were narrow, and dust hung thick in the air. Old warning lights flickered intermittently, and strange readings on his scanner suggested the presence of residual energy not generated by the ship, but somehow linked to it. Kale moved carefully, every step measured, aware that the ship's ancient mechanisms could react unpredictably. In one chamber, he discovered a room filled with storage pods, each containing items the crew had brought for exploration: tools, mechanical parts, and supplies for survival in alien environments filled the racks. Kale's eyes lingered on a single pod containing a human helmet, its surface scratched and worn. He lifted it carefully, as if touching history itself. The AI's voice interrupted his thoughts. Human. Decision. Required. Mission continuation. Kale understood then. The ship was not merely waiting, it had been designed to respond to human initiative. No other species could awaken it. No alien intelligence could coax it back to life. It required a human mind, capable of intuition, creativity, and determination. Kale felt the weight of that responsibility. He was not alone. The ship was with him, a partner in the task that lay ahead. He returned to the bridge, where the main controls had begun to hum with renewed power. The ship's AI was more coherent now, forming sentences with clarity. Human, guidance, critical, external threat, Zaltor approaching. Kale froze. The Zaltor fleet had been mentioned in the logs, but centuries had passed since any encounter. Could they have survived? Or been waiting for an opportunity to strike? Kale's mind raced. The ship's systems were partially operational, but not fully functional. He had hours, perhaps days, before the ship could be used to defend itself or return to space, and yet he felt a surge of confidence. Humans were adaptable. They could solve problems, think creatively, and act in ways that others could not predict. He would need every ounce of that ingenuity. He spent the night coordinating the ship's systems. Lights flickered, machinery hummed, and the bell at the bow rang softly in rhythm with his heartbeat. The AI observed him, almost as if it were learning from him. Kale realized that the ship and he were becoming connected. It was more than a machine, it was a reflection of human perseverance, responding to initiative, intuition, and willpower. In the early hours of the morning, Kale discovered a hidden chamber below the engineering section. It was sealed with layers of security, but he bypassed them with patience and skill. Inside, he found what remained of the crew's personal records, journals, and equipment. Holographic images flickered to life, showing humans exploring strange planets, mapping alien worlds, and interacting with civilizations long forgotten. Kale studied them, feeling a profound respect for those who had come before. Then he noticed something extraordinary. A small console, covered in dust, contained coordinates and a partial map of an unknown region of space. The ship had been on the verge of discovering something significant, a hyperspace corridor that could provide humans with a strategic advantage. Kale's heart raced. If he could reactivate the ship fully, he could complete what the crew had started centuries ago. The possibilities for human expansion, exploration, and understanding were limitless, but there was no time to hesitate. The ship's sensors detected movement beyond the planet's orbit. Small, dark shapes, likely reconnaissance drones, had appeared. Scanning the area, Kale realized that the Zaltor were indeed active, observing the ship, waiting for an opportunity. They had not forgotten humans, and they would not allow the ship to awaken without challenge. Kale took a deep breath. Humans had always faced impossible odds, yet they persevered. They had survived harsh planets, hostile civilizations, and unknown dangers in space. The Zaltor would be no different. Using his knowledge, ingenuity, and instinct, Kale began reactivating the ship's defensive systems. Shields hummed to life, though not fully operational, and weapon arrays, long, dormant, began to respond to his commands. Every action required precision, as the ship was fragile after centuries of inactivity. The bell rang again, louder this time, echoing across the water and cliffs. Kale realized it was not random, it was signaling readiness, alerting him that the ship's systems were responding. He felt a surge of pride. The ship, though ancient and forgotten, was awakening under human guidance, and in that awakening, there was a spark of something extraordinary, a reminder that humans, even when faced with overwhelming odds, could inspire machines, technology, and themselves to achieve greatness. As the first light of day touched the horizon, the mist began to lift. The ship floated silently, ready to depart, yet still connected to the planet that had hidden it for centuries. Kale knew the journey ahead would be dangerous, that the Zaltor would challenge him, and that the unknown awaited beyond the stars. But he also knew this: the ship, though forgotten, was human at its core, and he would guide it with courage, creativity, and determination. For the first time in centuries, the forgotten ship was not alone. Humans had returned, and with them, the spark of exploration, resilience, and ingenuity. The journey had begun, and the universe would soon witness the strength of the human spirit once more. Kale stood on the bridge of the awakened ship, staring into the void beyond the atmosphere of Veira. The misty ocean below was slowly disappearing into the planet's curve, and the first rays of the distant sun glinted off the ship's dark hull. The AI, now fully coherent, monitored every system, offering suggestions in a calm, analytical voice. Human, propulsion online, shields at 50%. External anomalies detected. Zaltor fleet, approaching in 14 standard cycles. Kale's jaw tightened. 14 cycles, that was little time. The Zaltor, a species notorious for their precision and ruthlessness, had discovered the ship. They had likely been tracking its emergence for decades, waiting for the right moment to strike, but Kale was not afraid. Humans thrived where danger was greatest. Creativity, adaptability, and courage were traits no machine or alien could replicate fully, and Kale had all three. He began a careful assessment of the ship's capabilities. The engines hummed softly, emitting a faint glow, enough for short bursts of speed but not sustained travel. Shields were functional but fragile, capable of withstanding light bombardment. Weapon arrays, long dormant, were rudimentary by modern standards. Yet with ingenuity, they could be adapted for unconventional defense. Kale realized that raw power alone would not ensure survival. Humans would win through thought, ingenuity, and timing. The ship's sensors picked up the first of the Zaltor vessels, a sleek, black craft, alien in design, with angular hulls that reflected light like obsidian. They were scouting, testing the ship's defenses, sending pulses of energy to probe for weaknesses. Kale frowned. The Zaltor were methodical, predictable in their strategy, and they underestimated humans at every turn. That would be their mistake. Kale worked quickly, rerouting power to shields and engines, then to the weapons system. He studied the Zaltor fleet patterns on the holographic map. Their approach was linear, almost arrogant in its simplicity. Humans, he knew, could turn that simplicity into advantage. He began manipulating the ship's systems to create illusions, projected duplicates, energy reflections, false readings on scanners. The AI watched silently, processing his commands, adjusting internal systems to synchronize with his strategies. By the time the first Zaltor ship approached within firing range, the battle had already begun, not with lasers or explosions, but with misdirection. The alien vessel fired, its energy beams slicing through space where the ship had been moments ago. The real ship was elsewhere, gliding silently, its position hidden by human ingenuity and quick thinking. Kale's mind worked with a speed and flexibility the AI could barely match. He anticipated the aliens' moves, predicted their calculations, and adapted instantaneously. Each pulse of energy from the Zaltor was countered, not by brute force, but by clever redirection and timing. The ship's engines responded to micro-adjustments he made instinctively, weaving through the void with the precision of a dancer. Despite the danger, Kale felt exhilaration. Humans were never meant to follow a set pattern. They thrived in chaos, turning unpredictability into power. The Zaltor, efficient but rigid, were confused. Their advanced technology could not cope with creativity. Each time they adapted, KL had already found another solution, moving, hiding, tricking, and striking with the ingenuity only a human mind could employ. Hours passed, or what felt like hours, in the silent expanse of space. The ship's bell, silent for so long, rang softly with Kale's heartbeat, a rhythm of courage and determination that resonated through the ship's core. The AI acknowledged this synchrony with what felt like respect. Human, unpredictable, strategy effective. Zaltor fleet responding, recalculating. KL knew that direct confrontation would be disastrous. The Zaltor were physically stronger, better armed, and experienced in combat. But humans had other tools: adaptability, intuition, and the ability to see patterns invisible to any machine. He devised a bold plan. Using the ship's ancient stealth technology, in combination with improvised tactics, the ship would appear to fragment, projecting holographic decoys into multiple positions, creating the illusion of an entire fleet. The first Zaltor strike came. Beams of alien energy cut through the void, smashing one of the decoys to pieces. But Kale had anticipated this. While the alien weapons destroyed illusions, the real ship was already repositioning, gaining ground, and preparing its next move. The aliens, expecting a straightforward battle, found themselves overwhelmed by the unexpected. Human unpredictability was proving to be more effective than raw power. Kale activated another system, one left dormant in the ship's old designs, the hyperspace pulse engine. It was unstable, dangerous, and had been abandoned centuries ago. But he understood its logic. By creating short, controlled bursts of hyperspace distortion, he could confuse the Zaltor sensors even further. The ship moved in ways no alien mind could predict, vanishing and reappearing in fractions of seconds. The fleet fired blindly, unable to land a single hit. Hours passed in a blur of tension and calculation. Kale's hands moved over the controls with precision, guided by instinct, experience, and a profound understanding of human capability. Every decision reflected a uniquely human trait: the ability to adapt, to create, and to act with courage under pressure. Slowly, the Xaltor began to retreat, their confidence shaken by an opponent they could not comprehend. Amidst the battle, Kale discovered another secret. The ship's AI contained logs of ancient hyperspace lanes, routes that could allow humans to bypass the Xaltor entirely, to explore regions of space previously thought unreachable. Kale realized the true potential of the vessel. It was not just a weapon or a relic. It was a bridge to the future, a vessel capable of restoring human expansion and exploration beyond known territories. The bell rang again, louder this time, echoing through the void of space. Kale smiled. The ship was alive, responding to human willpower, intuition, and courage. Together, they had turned the tide, proving that humans, even against superior forces, could prevail through ingenuity and determination. As the Xaltor fleet retreated beyond sensor range, Kale took a moment to breathe. The danger was not over. The aliens would return, and the unknown challenges of deep space awaited. But he felt a profound sense of accomplishment. Humans had always survived where others would fail, not by sheer force, but by creativity, resilience, and the ability to adapt in ways no one else could. Kale set a course for one of the newly discovered hyperspace lanes. The ship responded eagerly, engines humming smoothly, systems fully operational under his guidance. The AI spoke once more, its voice carrying a hint of pride. Human, mission continuation, hyperspace mapping, success potential, high. Kale smiled. It was a rare moment of acknowledgement from a machine, one that had learned to respect the human mind. Through the days and nights that followed, Kale worked tirelessly. He charted new routes, recorded hyperspace anomalies, and tested the ship's limits. Each day brought discoveries, planets rich with resources, stars with unusual energy signatures, and remnants of alien civilizations that had long vanished. The ship's bell rang occasionally, in a rhythm that seemed to mark human triumph and progress. A reminder that even forgotten technology, guided by human ingenuity, could achieve greatness. Yet Kale never allowed complacency. He knew the Xaltor would return, perhaps with greater numbers, more cunning strategies, and weapons designed specifically to counter human unpredictability. But he also knew that humans had something the aliens could never replicate: the spark of creativity, the ability to improvise, and the courage to face overwhelming odds without hesitation. On one quiet day, as Kale adjusted the ship's course through a particularly dense field of space debris, the AI detected a faint signal, a distress beacon from a human colony on a distant planet. The colony had lost contact centuries ago, presumed abandoned. Kale's heart leapt. Humans had survived there, and it was up to him to reconnect them to the rest of human civilization. The ship responded immediately, engines powering up, shields ready, weapons on standby. They would reach the colony, no matter the obstacles. The journey was treacherous. Meteoroids and space anomalies tested the ship's stability, but Kale's ingenuity and the AI's guidance ensured they passed safely. The bell rang in response to every successful maneuver, a rhythm of human triumph echoing across the void. By the time they arrived at the colony, Kale had grown more confident. more attuned to the ship, and more aware of the unique power humans wielded in the universe. The colony appeared on the sensors, barely recognizable but alive. Kale guided the ship down to orbit, preparing for first contact. The humans there were wary at first, unable to comprehend a vessel from the past appearing in their skies. But Kale's words, his courage, and the symbol of human persistence reassured them. Slowly, the colony's inhabitants recognized the ship and its purpose. Humans had returned, not as lost explorers, but as masters of their destiny, capable of reclaiming their place among the stars. As Kale prepared the ship for departure, he looked out over the colony, the stars, and the vast expanse of space. The battle with the Zaltor had been only the first of many challenges, but it had proven something vital. Humans, even when facing forces far superior in strength and technology, could triumph through ingenuity, courage, and determination. The forgotten ship had awakened, but more importantly, the human spirit had awakened with it. The bell rang one final time before departure, clear and resonant, echoing across the void. It was a call to the universe, a reminder that humans, though often underestimated, were never truly defeated. Kale smiled, feeling the pulse of the ship, the rhythm of human ingenuity, and the promise of countless adventures ahead. Together, human and ship, they moved forward, not merely as survivors, but as pioneers, explorers, and symbols of what humanity could achieve when courage and creativity guided their path. The Zaltor fleet would return, undoubtedly, but the lesson had been made clear. Humans were unpredictable, resilient, and unstoppable when they dared to challenge the universe itself. Kale guided the forgotten ship beyond the orbit of the distant colony, its engines humming steadily and shields at full strength. The once abandoned vessel now glowed with life, every system tuned to human command, every function responding to intuition and creativity. The AI, fully coherent after centuries of dormancy, had become more than a machine. It was a companion, a partner in exploration, and it regarded Kale with a calculated respect. Human, navigation optimal, external threats minimal, mission expansion recommended. Kale nodded. The universe stretched before him, infinite and unknown. New hyperspace lanes beckoned, routes never mapped by any human before. The ship's logs indicated that many had been planned centuries ago, but remained incomplete due to the crew's loss. Now, guided by Kale, the mission could finally reach its full potential. This was more than survival. This was legacy. Humans had not only awakened the ship, they would complete what their ancestors had started. The first target was a nearby system of planets that had never been colonized. Sensors detected faint energy signatures, evidence of ancient structures built by civilizations long extinct. Kyle was careful, observing every anomaly. He knew that humanity's strength lay not in force alone, but in understanding, observation, and respect for what came before. He plotted a course that allowed the ship to enter orbit around the primary planet, without triggering any energy fluctuations that could signal their presence. As they approached, Kale felt a thrill of anticipation. Humans had always ventured where others feared to go, and now they were pioneers once more. The ship's bell rang softly, a reminder of history and hope intertwined. Kale ran scans of the planet's surface and atmosphere, discovering pockets of rare minerals and energy nodes that could power future human colonies. His mind raced with possibilities: habitats, research stations, and resource hubs. Every discovery added to the vision of humanity, spreading across the stars. Suddenly, sensors detected a small fleet of Zaltor ships entering the system. They had returned, no doubt alerted by the ship's emergence or by their own long-range reconnaissance. Kale's jaw tightened. The aliens had underestimated humans before, but he knew they would not repeat that mistake. He quickly analyzed their formations and weapon patterns. Unlike humans, the Zaltor relied on predictable, logical tactics. Kyle would use that to his advantage. He activated the ship's decoy systems, projecting multiple holographic duplicates in varying positions. The Zaltor fired upon the nearest projections, wasting their energy and creating confusion among their fleet. Meanwhile, KL maneuvered the real ship through an asteroid field nearby, using the debris for cover. The aliens struggled to track him, their sensors disrupted by the ship's unpredictable movements. Every decision KL made reflected human adaptability, quick thinking, creativity, and a willingness to take calculated risks. During the skirmish, KL discovered an ancient hyperspace corridor within the system, partially mapped but unused for centuries. It provided a direct route to a sector of space rich with resources and strategic positions. He calculated the trajectory, integrating the ship's AI to adjust for speed, gravity wells, and potential obstacles. In a coordinated effort, KL and the ship executed the plan flawlessly. The Zaltor fleet, unable to anticipate the sudden jump, was left disoriented, their formation broken. KL smiled. Humans had once again turned adversity into advantage. After escaping the immediate threat, KL focused on exploration. The corridor led to planets with habitable atmospheres and untapped energy sources. He deployed probes, gathering data that could serve humanity for generations. On one planet, he discovered signs of a past human expedition, ruins of structures and long-abandoned equipment. The AI scanned the site and retrieved fragments of logs, piecing together the story of humans who had ventured here centuries before. KL felt a deep connection to them, realizing that human ingenuity and courage had always transcended time. Days passed as KL mapped the region, carefully documenting each discovery. The ship's systems responded fluidly, anticipating his needs and optimizing performance. The bell rang occasionally, in rhythm with his own heartbeat, a symbolic connection between human determination and machine resilience. KL's actions were shaping the future, not just for himself, but for humanity as a whole. Every step forward reinforced the idea that humans could thrive where others could not, using intuition, creativity, and adaptability to overcome challenges. One evening, as the ship drifted near a nebula rich with rare gases, KL detected another human colony, thought lost for centuries. The colony had survived in isolation, unaware of humanity's broader expansion. KL coordinated a careful approach, ensuring the ship remained undetected until he could establish safe contact. When the colony's sensors finally recognized the vessel, alarms went off, and panic spread among the inhabitants. KL activated the communication array and broadcast a simple message: "Humans from beyond the stars, we come in peace." Gradually, the colony understood. KL's calm voice, combined with the symbol of the ship, a relic from humanity's past now fully alive, convinced them of his intentions. The colony's leaders met him aboard the ship. Astonished by its design and technology, KL shared data, resources, and guidance, offering a connection to the rest of humanity. The colony had survived by ingenuity and resilience, and now, guided by KL and the awakened ship, they could reintegrate into human civilization. The Zaltor, observing these actions, sent another fleet. This time, they were larger, faster, and more strategic. But KL was ready. The ship's AI had learned from previous encounters, and KL's own intuition had sharpened. They combined stealth, misdirection, and calculated strikes to evade and disable the enemy. The aliens were forced to retreat once more. Unable to counter the unpredictable tactics of a human mind, working in perfect harmony with a ship designed by humans. With the threat temporarily neutralized, KL turned his attention to the next phase of the mission: long-term expansion. The ship carried records of planets suitable for colonization, energy nodes for sustainable power, and routes through hyperspace that could accelerate human exploration by centuries. KL transmitted the data to other human colonies, ensuring that knowledge was shared and that humanity could flourish across multiple star systems. As weeks turned into months, KL became more attuned to the ship. He felt its movements as an extension of his own body. Its responses synchronized with his thoughts. The AI, once fragmented and cautious, now acted with confidence, coordinating complex maneuvers, predicting environmental changes, and assisting KL in every decision. Together, they were more than human and machine. They were a team capable of reshaping the future. One day, KL received a signal from an unknown source. It was faint, ancient, and rhythmic, the same pattern as the ship's bell. The AI analyzed the signal, confirming it originated from a hidden region of space containing the remnants of an old human exploration fleet. Kale's heart raced. The opportunity to recover lost human knowledge, technology, and history was within reach. With careful planning, he set a course, preparing to awaken more ships and reconnect humanity across the stars. The journey to the hidden fleet was perilous. Space anomalies, debris fields, and rogue energy surges tested every system of the ship. Yet Kale navigated each obstacle with skill and intuition. The ship responded to his touch, its systems humming in harmony with his mind. When they finally reached the fleet, Kale found ships abandoned for centuries, preserved in stasis but intact. One by one, he activated them, using his ingenuity to restore power, recalibrate engines, and awaken AI systems. The forgotten fleet stirred, and with it, the legacy of humanity expanded once more. Kale understood the magnitude of what he had accomplished. Humans, often underestimated by other civilizations, had reclaimed a lost part of their history. They had awakened ships, reconnected colonies, and charted hyperspace lanes that would ensure survival and expansion for generations. And all of it had been achieved not through brute force, but through uniquely human qualities: creativity, adaptability, courage, and the relentless drive to explore. As Kale prepared the fleet for departure, he looked back at the distant stars. The Zaltor would eventually return, as they always did, but humanity now had the advantage of experience, ingenuity, and unity. The bell of the forgotten ship rang once more, resonant and clear, echoing across the void. It was no longer a warning or a relic of fear, it was a call to the universe, a signal that humans were alive, thriving, and unstoppable. With the fleet under his guidance, Kale set a course for the outer reaches of human-explored space. Colonies would be supplied, hyperspace routes expanded, and lost knowledge restored. The human spirit, embodied in both Kale and the awakened ships, moved forward, leaving a mark across the stars that no civilization, no matter how advanced, could ignore. In the quiet moments between maneuvers, Kale reflected on the journey. The forgotten ship, once lost and silent, had become a symbol of humanity's resilience. It had waited patiently, knowing that a human would one day return to guide it, awaken its purpose, and continue the mission it had begun centuries ago. And Kale, like the explorers who had come before him, had proven that human ingenuity could overcome time, space, and the most formidable opponents. As the fleet moved through hyperspace, stars stretching into brilliant lines around them, Kale felt a sense of fulfillment and hope. The universe was vast, full of unknown dangers and wonders. Yet humanity was ready. Through courage, creativity, and determination, they had reclaimed the forgotten ship, restored lost colonies, and forged a path into the unknown. The mission was far from over, but the legacy had begun. The bell of the forgotten ship rang one final time before fading into the hum of engines and the quiet of hyperspace. It was a rhythm of triumph, a testament to human endurance, and a reminder that even when forgotten, humans could awaken their destiny, shape the future, and leave a lasting mark on the universe. Kale smiled as he looked over the bridge, the stars stretching endlessly before him. Humans had begun again, stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever. And the universe would remember the night the forgotten ship rang its bell, not in fear, but in celebration of the human spirit.